It seems a truism that love comes from the heart. We all say things like, I love you with all of my heart. We make hearts to indicate how we love something. And that's widespread, I think, across about all cultures. But the question is, can you order someone to love, force someone to love? Now, the Torah does command us in several places to love as a mitzvah taseh, as a commandment. We are commanded to love your companion as you love yourself, and we are commanded to love the Lord your God. And I'll be concentrating in this short video on the second verse. And the question is not just if there's some outside force, whether it's another human being or whether it's God, can order you to love. The question is, can you force yourself to love? Because that's what has to be done to fulfill this. And it's a difficult question to answer. And I want to share with you some thoughts I have on a development that Rabbi Soloveitchik makes on this issue. I have to admit that I don't fully understand every step in his reasoning. And it's based very much, at least in the foundational approach, to a Christian philosopher of several hundred years ago, Blaise Pascal, wrote a book of his thoughts, pensées. Pascal, as you can see in the passage that I'm putting here on the screen, developed a theory that is called logique du coeur, the logic of the heart. Actually, it's not, that term is not mentioned in the passage. He speaks of this heart having its own reasons, these reasons which are different from reason with a capital R, reason as a logic, as abstract logic. And the Rav identifies with this 100%. The heart, as a seat of emotions, thinks, or not thinks, but reasons differently. It has its own internal logic, which is not the same as the logic, the cold logic, so to speak, of the brain, which is responsible for, say, metaphysics and mathematics. So the question is, that is the basis. But now the question that the Rav asks, which is really the fundamental issue here, and I admit that I don't really follow the steps which he outlined, because he puts it forth in this book, which I'm putting on the screen of the cover page, a book which came out, which is basically the typescript. Someone typing out from tape recordings made nearly 70 years ago in a series of lectures that Rabbi Soloveitchik gave in New York. And they're extremely interesting. He was in his prime, and many of the things that he had studied and thought about and experienced as a student in Berlin in the 1920s, majoring at first in physics and mathematics, and then doing a doctorate in philosophy. Many of these things are still fresh in his mind, and he has many interesting references to those years and things he's read in those years, along with his own, of course, very fundamental and creative Torah insights. The point that the Rav develops is that there has to be a move from the, let's say, the abstract to the concrete, or from the theoretical to the practical, in any branch of knowledge, any branch of human endeavor. So if we take, say, science as an endeavor that belongs to the world of reason, and love, which is an endeavor that belongs to the logic of the heart, then in the world of science, we have a move from the abstract speculation, the intuitive, the speculation and thinking, to the practical computations. And this is where we, instead of having just, like wonderful thoughts about how the stars move, we start calculating and developing models based on our calculations that will imitate reality as we see it as closely as possible. This is a difficult move in the sciences. This is what led the Greeks to develop their system of epicycles and excenters, and then Copernicus and especially Kepler to move away from that with a different model. And of course now we have a completely utterly different models. Now the question is, how can this happen in the world of the realm or the sphere of the heart? Can the logic of the heart, as Pascal says, the reasons why I like one thing and don't like another, which can't be explained by rational reasoning, as to say, the abstract reasoning of mathematics and logic, but it's the logic of the heart. Can this be transferred to a practical level, which will allow the formulation of norms and laws, such as these commandments? I'm adding that, such as these commandments. And the Rav says not only that they can, but this is actually almost the essence of Judaism. This is the great contribution of Judaism to human endeavor, the great move that Judaism took that puts it at the top of the class. And that is in these laws that are formulated for the heart. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, v'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. This is the point that the Rav makes, but just how this move is made, I can't explain. But anyway, the Rav, presents this pretty much as his own chidush, as his own new innovative contribution to the philosophy of man, or the Jewish philosophy of man, as he puts it. And I'm sure he rightly deserves it. But should always look for precedents, even if they're just barely formulated or roughly formulated in early works. And just by chance, I found one that seems to force to have the same idea that the Rav had. It's a commentary on the Torah, which I am working on now, which is not known. It was only published once in Livorno, maybe 150 years ago, and survives in several manuscripts. And I became interested in it because it seems to me that it is, in fact, written by a member, a scion of the Ibn Tibon clan. The head of the clan was Yehuda Ibn Tibon, the father of translators, the man who fled the persecution of the Almohads in Spain and resettled in the Provence, brought with him an enormous library, and began a process of translating some of the many, many books in Arabic that he had, which his new co-religionists, his new communities in the south of France were very interested. They had heard that there's a lot of important learning written in the Arabic language, but they don't read it, and they really asked him to please make some of this available. And his son and his grandson continued the project along with some nephews. But this is an unknown member of the family, and an odd thing happened. He was, I think, correctly identified by none other than the great Moritz Steinschneider, the greatest name in the study of Hebrew literature, I would say, certainly of pre-modern Hebrew literature. In an obscure article of 100 pages in German and Gothic type, which is buried deeply inside there. I don't know who would read this stuff anymore. And unfortunately, two much lesser scholars who came after him in the early 20th century dismissed this. They claimed that they could prove that this identification was wrong with some very weak, fallacious arguments, which I will refute in the paper that I am preparing. But in his commentary on this passage, the author of this commentary, it says quite explicitly that the command to love God, v'yavtat Hashem Elokecha, which comes right after the Shema, the famous verse that's known by everyone, Shma Yisrael, hear, O Israel, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one. The very next verse is v'yavtat Hashem Elokecha. You should love the Lord your God, b'chol levavcha. You should love the God with your heart. And he says quite explicitly that the reason why the Torah specifies that you should love God with your heart is because the heart is the source for this particular human capacity, this human force called love. And it's found in, he says quite clearly, in the heart, v'lo b'machshava, and not in thinking, that is to say, not in the type of abstract thinking that we know of from the sciences, but in something which can only be at least same thrust as Pascal's logique de coeur. So I thought this was an interesting point and worth sharing with you. If anyone is interested to know more about this commentary, or about the book of the Rav, or even Blaise Pascal, though unfortunately I don't have much time to read his works, as they say, drop a note in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.